gentlemen, dudes and dudettes, I am Matt Burns, and you might notice that there's a only single voice this week, as unfortunately, my broadcast partner and, tag team partner for The Burning Truth, JB, also known as John Bloor, is not here with me for this week. Due to personal reasons, and which we'll probably cover next week, probably when John Bloor does return, but this should be a bit of a different episode. Also, you might have also noticed that this isn't exactly a live episode once again. Unfortunately, this is due to time schedules and due to being very, very, very busy. And I thought it'd be best off me doing a pre-recorded episode where I'm able to get time to discuss some of the topics that we want to discuss for The Burning Truth. And so we can have a bit more of a discussion, and basically, instead of it just being a rushed episode, so I'm just going through like 100 miles per hour, I can actually sit down and actually explain some of my thoughts on some of the topics, which we will be going through shortly. I will go through the list of the topics that we'll be going through, but I need to get two things straight off out the way first before we get on to the topics for this week. But anyway, with that, I'm going to throw out the audio disclaimer. Please, the following Burning Truth episode may contain some topics or language that may be unsuitable for younger listeners, and for anyone who doesn't like the topics or certain blue language that is brought forth, and the adult language that may be used in regards to certain topics, or just certain outbursts that may occur from possible rants, or maybe slip of the tongue. If this language does offend you, please be warned that there may be the odd occasional swear word as such, and may be unsuitable for younger listeners. And on top of that, as JB always usually mentions, the following episode may contain strobe lighting effects. I thought I'd keep that in, as that has almost been on almost every episode, and is usually JB's one per list. But I thought, seeing as whenever he's not here, I would try to keep that tradition going. Right. With the audio disclaimer out the way, stating that, basically what we've just stated, I am going to basically be reiterating the fact that The Burning Truth does, in fact, still massively support Black Lives Matter and the hashtag Speaking Out movement. So, please, as such, that is still going ahead, going strong, and that we are proud to support both cases. And if anyone is affected by both of them, be it either Black Lives Matter or hashtag Speaking Out, if you want to have a voice, or have your voice heard, or feel that you want to get something off your chest in regards to this nature, please contact The Burning Truth, as we've always got an open mic and some airtime for any to basically be able to have your word. However, if it's anything to do with accusations in regards to anything that involves accusations as such, we may have to state to you to please report that to the local, to the predominant authority that may be suitable for the need that it is, that it involves. But as such, so we're not pointing any fingers as such. But if somebody wants to have a voice heard or an opinion heard, we've always got our mic always on standby and ready to listen. And with that, let's get on to the topics for this week for, basically the wrestling. Now, for this week, I was going to be basically discussing the basic views of where has Tommaso Ciampa been on NXT lately, and why he's been off, and what's going on with him, in regards to what happened, the end result of in the final match of NXT, the Great American Bash, pitting between Keith Lee and Adam Cole in the winner takes all. And of course, what could be happening in the aftermath of that. And of course, also in regards to the FTW Championship making a return to the wrestling world at AEW. And potentially why WWE hasn't been involved in that as such, seeing as the FTW Championship was on ECW, which WWE owns. But more on that later. And of course, we will be going round to Rumour Corner and in some two interesting topics that we will be covering, and potentially a, subsidiary track for the future for the Burning Truth. Well, not the future of the Burning Truth, more of an extra section that could be making a return as the final topic. Start off with the first topic, shall we? Which is views on Tommaso Ciampa not being on NXT lately. A lot of people are speculating. Could this be because of his match against, he's off screen to sell Killian Cross's beat down from his, big massive pay-per-view event match against Killian Cross, which I think is most likely the case. But at the same time, there has been speculation of, with him basically doing putting over Killian Cross, what is actually next for Tommaso Ciampa? He's now been basically downgraded almost, you could say, as such, because he's, pretty much lost to Killian Cross in such, dramatic effect as such. It wasn't like it was a one-sided, it wasn't just it's a back and forth challenge, it was a one-sided fight. Now, this could be the fact of, they just might be giving him some time off to basically re-heal, come back bigger, badder and better again. But then at the same time, Tommaso Ciampa has sort of been off with injury as such. So is this the best time for him to be off? Personally, I think this is due to the fact that the reason why he has been off is due to the fact that the writers may have not got any ideas of what to do with him, which in could actually be the reason why he's been doing the so-called post on Twitter against Randy Orton, which could actually lead to something. But then again, we all know how Vince McMahon doesn't like how wrestlers, creates their own storylines via social media. Unless he's thought of it, it's not a good idea. But we'll have to wait and see what comes of it, because rumor mill of itself, because there's been speculation of Tommaso Ciampa versus Randy Orton at SummerSlam, but there is also Orton could be most likely returning on the show, especially around Rumour Corner, which is later on. But there's many possible ideas of what could be happening. We'll have to wait and see what comes of it. Now, the funny thing about it is, for me, Tommaso Ciampa is okay to be off time for a little bit more, but he has got to make a comeback soon. And when he does make a comeback soon, he does need to be kicking ass and taking names, because he needs to get back into that picture very, very quickly. If he doesn't, then he's more likely going to be sidelined and relegated down to the mid card, and potentially, could be second thought, which would be a massive shame, especially seeing as the fact that he managed to hold down the NXT headlines in such a massive way, when he reinvented himself, somehow put the championship in such an amazing way, just by naming the championship Goldie, which is an absolute interesting thought. But personally, I hope he does make a comeback. Now, the question is when do you make him have a comeback? There's two ways I can think of. He's either got to come back, basically have someone say, you're done, you're a has-been, you're nobody, and have him just basically rip into them and say, you thought I was done, you've now just ticked me off. Or wait until Killian Cross potentially goes for claimed dominance over the championship, and just as Killian Cross is about to make his claim to be the next NXT champion, why not have Tommaso Ciampa come in and cost Killian Cross? which would actually cause Killian to have his first official loss, and also be almost like, yeah, you whooped me, but I won the war. It's the one upping each other. He's basically saying, yeah, you thought TikTok his time was done, but you thought it was all done and dusted, but it's not. And on top of that, you thought I was done. Far from it. I'm here. Basically to say, I'm here to kick out and chew bubblegum and I'm all out of gum. To quote a other wrestler from a movie which was called They Live. And in case if you don't know who that was, that would be none other than Rowdy Roddy Piper. But anyway, let's move on to the next topic, which is to do with the Great American Bash final match, which was to do with Adam Cole versus Keith Lee. Winner takes all to crown either a new North American Championship or a new NXT champion. And I've got to say, interesting match, back and forth, and one that is going to be down in the history books. Unfortunately, as we already covered last week, it was spoilt. Ooh, shouldn't have done that. That's almost, that's going to anger Vince very, very much so, especially such a big moment has been spoiled for the winner, which was none other than Keith Lee. And I know a lot of people are probably saying, oh God, I haven't seen it. Ladies and gentlemen, as much as I could turn around and say, we should have given you an extra week or such, but you've had since Wednesday when it occurred, which was, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 4 complete whole days to watch it. If you haven't watched it by then, unfortunately, we can't cover it. At least I'm not doing it the day straight after. We've given you more than enough time to go into it, and that's why we haven't put a spoiler disclaimer into it. So with that, I've got to give a massive congratulations to Keith Lee, who is somebody who basically he's, as much as a lot of people could say, bask in his glory. Yes, you can bask in his glory, and take into account that is history making. He is the first ever person to be somebody who is holding the North American Championship and the NXT Championship. Now, the question is, how are they going to handle that situation? Is he going to be defending both championships? Is he going to be defending them both at individual times? And if so, that's going to be a bit crucially vital. Personally, for me, I think what they should be doing with this is almost like an old WWE ruling, which was like with the Intercontinental Championship and WWE Championship, which is the fact that he can't hold both at the same time, and that he has to vacate the North American Championship for it to be fought in a tournament of some sort, or to crown a new North American champion. Which basically means, as much as you can turn around and say, oh, well, that puts down the North American Championship, but by having him defend both the North American Championship and the NXT Championship, you're going to be diminishing one, because the second he loses the North American Championship, straight away, whoever becomes the North American Champion has then got a win over the NXT Champion, which then puts him in line, and history almost vicious cycle, basically. Now, in regards to this, personally, I think this will be a great time to showcase, how great the NXT roster is, and should be very, very interesting on what could be going on next. Now, aside from the whole North American Championship and NXT Championship, we need to get on to the fact of what happened, what is going to be happening with Adam Cole, baby, and the Undisputed. Now, rumor has it that a lot of people are saying, well, hang on, does this mean that Adam Cole's moving up to the main roster? Is his contract due to end soon? Is he going to go to AEW and all that? Now, personally, I can't exactly see him going to AEW anytime soon, as Adam Cole has been a very much big player, has been very much quite interested in most likely being involved with WWE and staying as such. And it would be a bit of a shame to see him go on such a short notice. And I feel as though it would actually diminish the Undisputed as such. Personally, I can see Adam Cole going up, but will he be going up alone? Now, there has been speculation and talk of Adam Cole going up with the Undisputed. However, the problem is there has been talk of basically does all members of the Undisputed want to go up to the main roster, especially with the fact that there is the high risk of what is currently going on at the WWE Performance Center, with it being high risk due to the COVID-19, or also known as the coronavirus, as such there, with people having to wear masks and everything, and as such with Full Sail University being very much clear with all the testing and everything that has been ongoing. Now, at the moment, there is a high risk. Supposedly, there is certain people who have been infected more are going to the pieces by going to the performance center, and certain members of the Undisputed have been very, very cautionary and wondering if it might, could them being going up to the main roster put their families at risk, which they have to consider. Now, the question is does this mean that we could end up seeing a breakup of the Undisputed? Could we emphatically see certain members not be going up? Could Adam Cole just be going up by himself, and then eventually the Undisputed later on joining him? Or is this going to be, half and half? Could we just see only half Undisputed going up? And it's going to be an interesting thought as such, but at the same time, either way, it's going to be interesting. Because personally, I think if they do end up having to split them up briefly, they could actually make a claim to say, I come up by myself or with a colleague as such to take over this main show, while the others are putting, taking over NXT still and showing how dominant we are. So almost in a way saying that we are dominating regardless of whatever brand, we are still brothers or something in that regard, which could be massively interesting. Now, as for what goes on forward, there's only one way to find out what is going to happen, and that is by checking out NXT and WWE for the future, as they currently hold all the answers. But at this moment in time, I am absolutely looking forward to seeing what Keith Lee does next and what is next for Adam Cole and the Undisputed. Now, shifting from WWE to AEW. And we've got to bring up an interesting topic. The fact of, yes, unfortunately, AEW could not have the AEW Championship bout between Jon Moxley and Brian Cage due to an unfortunate incident involving someone being potentially, with Jon Moxley being connected to Renee Young, who recently caught the coronavirus or COVID-19 and has had to stay away from AEW to basically shielding to protect his fellow brethren and also stay at home and looking after Renee Young. Now, this left a bit of a gap on AEW, and as such, they didn't know what to do with it next. And I have got to say, whoever came up with the idea of what ended up happening is absolutely pure damn genius. And I have a feeling this is gonna involve Taz, because it's his little gem that he's brought back, which he actually originally had in ECW, which is none other than by bringing back the FTW Championship, and he has proclaimed that he has forfeited his. He is not holding the championship for himself. He is passing it over to Brian Cage to be the FTW champion. And in case if anybody does want to know what that means, let's just say this: it's not for the win, for sure. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was the Fuck the World Championship. Now, what's interesting with this is the fact of it's almost like history repeating itself, but in a very, very different way. Now, when Taz brought the FTW Championship in ECW, that was because it's supposedly in storyline that Shane Douglas, who was the ECW champion, was nothing but a coward and scared of facing against Taz. And Taz brought it in to declare himself, his self-proclaimed world champion as such. now, straight away, which is absolutely massively interesting. And in this case, you've got Jon Moxley, who is the AEW champion, who is unfortunately not able to defend it due to the whole current pandemic situation, the fact that he's had to be shielding at home due to what has been going on, and he's not been able to defend it. But at the same time, they've actually still sort of kept the feud going while also raising some stakes a little bit along the way by bringing in the FTW Championship and trying to make claims that Jon Moxley is ducking Brian Cage, almost a bit like how Shane Douglas did on Taz in ECW, which is an absolutely interesting thought and dynamic, and I've got to say, absolutely elevates this feud between Brian Cage and Jon Moxley. It is an interesting thought. And on top of that, everyone's probably thinking, whoa. Hang on. Wasn't the FTW Championship in ECW? And isn't that owned by WWE right now? So couldn't WWE turn around and say, nope, we own the copyright to that. We own all ECW, all everything. Yes, you could say that would be correct. However, that would have been correct if the FTW Championship copyright was actually owned by Paul Heyman at the time, or in fact ECW. Guess what? It wasn't. It never was. It wasn't exactly, and the FTW Championship wasn't actually an official registered ECW Championship, which is the interesting thought, because even though it was still on TV, it wasn't an official, official known championship in ECW. It was just Taz self-proclaiming himself as the FTW World Champion, which is an interesting concept because, so if Heyman doesn't own the copyright and ECW don't own the copyright, which means WWE doesn't own the copyright, who does? That would be none other than Taz, who has decided to bring it out of retirement and bring it forth into AEW. Now, the question is, whether does Taz still own the copyright to it at this moment in time? I would believe yes, he does. But the question is how is AEW going to handle this? Is Taz going to be allowing AEW to be using his belt on with his terms and conditions as such? And will AEW be gaining the rights from Taz as such? But at the moment in time, we don't know in regards to that. We'll have to wait and see what goes on. But it's an absolute interesting thought on how they're using this, because it's basically saying that while Jon Moxley is not here, is not there, it's almost like the FTW World Championship is almost like the fill-in for the AEW Championship, which is currently not being able to be defended as of yet. And it's going to be very, very interesting what is going to be happening next. And the best thing about it is, with Taz, he turned around and he hypes up. He is such a great guy at hyping up any championship bouts, be it when he's on the mic. The fact that, yes, it's been off TV for a while, but the fact that as soon as he brought it back in, it almost becomes registered just from Taz turning around saying, whoever owns this championship is being labelled the baddest man on the planet, and basically anyone, you only own this championship if you are the baddest man on the planet. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, Taz was the one who last defended it, which is why he ended up forfeiting it. He has the right to be able to provide it to Brian Cage or whomever he wants to. And a lot of people are saying, they can't just hand the championship over. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, that is not technically a registered world title by the company that it's being used in, so that could be the way around it, and it's very, very clever. So overall, I feel as though the FTW Championship is going to be bringing more to AEW and is going to elevate the match between Brian Cage, the FTW Champion, against Jon Moxley, the AEW Champion. And at the same time, a lot of people are probably saying, well, how does Taz feel about it, just in case if Brian Cage loses to Jon Moxley? Well, that brings into question is, if that is the case, as such, is this going to, this puts in, it almost puts in, plausible doubt. Is Jon Moxley going to be successful in defending his championship against Brian Cage? or is Brian Cage going to be the baddest man on the planet and beat Jon Moxley for the AEW Championship? It's putting that nice little spin of basically so you have no idea who's going to win at Fight for the Fallen. And I've got to say, just by introducing this championship, has actually put a bit of a new spin on things at AEW, so you do not know who's going to win the main championship at Fight for the Fallen. And I can honestly say, I cannot wait to see what happens next. Now, normally I would have much more topics to discuss, but unfortunately, we're on a very limited time scale at this moment in time. So instead, I'm going to be jumping into Rumour Corner right now, which is going to be discussing two topics, which is going to be, we've had a bit of a rumour earlier in regards to what is going to be happening for Adam Cole, the Undisputed, and potentially the NXT Championship and North American Championship, which could be labelled within this, but I had to discuss it there and then. But Rumour Corner is going to be in discuss of two things. The first one I'm going to be covering is in regards to a match at WWE The Horror Show at Extreme Rules 2020, which is the fact that they are actually having a eye for an eye match. And I can honestly say, it's going to be an interesting idea what they're going to be doing is. The idea being is, the winner, to win the match, you have to somehow, forcibly, pull out the eye of your opponent, which is going to be horrific. Now, a lot of people saying, how can they be doing this? How are they going to be doing this? Now, there has been talk and speculation for the eye for an eye match, that CGI is going to be involved. Now, a lot of fans have been stating, oh, well, if they use CGI, that's not wrestling, that's just movie, that's not my wrestling. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. As such, I'm on the shelf with this idea. I like the idea of the fact that they're ramping up, trying to elevate a new concept, a new idea, which is completely never been seen before. I can also say that. But there is that sort of realm of uncertainty of what the hell? You're sort of bending the rules of physics here, WWE. How's it going to be believable pulling out their eye without actual believable damage? Oh my God, he's pulled out his eye. He's out. And then 1 week later, he's back in with a new eye. I'm sorry, but WWE, you're not going to be able to do what you did with Thor in the Marvel Universe. Dunk, new eye. It's not going to work. Now, this is what I'm thinking is going to be. It's, I'm for it because it's a new idea and something not the same. It's just not within the realms of believability of what's going to be happening straight after that, which is where I'm a bit disappointed in. So I'm on the fence with that idea. I'll probably catch John Blaw's thoughts and views on this if he's back next week, and hopefully probably some of your thoughts on it as well, and just see where we go from there. Now, the next Rumour Corner, the next item on Rumour Corner, which is there is an idea being pitched for Drew McIntyre to lose the WWE Championship soon. Really, WWE? Really? And this is where I've got to give everybody a bit of a warning here, because there may be a bit of a rant involved right now. And a lot of people saying, well, does this rumour mean at WWE Horror Show? At Extreme Rules 2020? Well, the rumour has it that he could be keeping his championship then and could end up losing it at SummerSlam. And the person that he could be potentially losing it to is none other than Randy Orton. Right. New star who's already made it. WWE, why are we going back on ourselves? I just feel though this is just going back. Now, is this because Pritchard is the only one who's doing the writing for both shows? Is it because Vince McMahon's getting what he wants? Let's keep repeating ourselves until we run out of basically until they're gone and we realise we've made a mistake and realise that we've got no new damn fucking stars. Now, the issue I have with this is, and what makes it worse is with this rumour is the reason behind it is because we want Drew McIntyre to lose the championship so we can then give it him back at the next WrestleMania when he back and be, with all the fans there so we can have a proper coronation and be proud and cheered and gleared. How many times have WWE tried to do that idea with certain people? Well, I didn't get it right the first time. Let's try it a second time for the second time to just suddenly disappear and never reappear. This is Drew McIntyre's time to still be champion. Whether the fans are there or not, my advice to you is keep the damn belt on him until the crowd come back and basically have him cheering him on and see how that goes. I understand that they want him to do a big epic moment, but as soon as you take that championship belt off, what is to say that you are going to change your mind and basically go, yeah, well, the crowd went there really for what he wanted, so why should it be bothered if he ever has it again? And then you've just cost him his main run, his main title moment, all because of what? Well, you thought he wasn't really a champ because the crowd went there? Pish posh. The fact is, he has been carrying that belt in such a phenomenal way and has been a standout. And the fact that because the crowd aren't there, you're going to take it off him? Not a good excuse to be. It is poor. It's not very smart, and if anything, it's lazy writing. So, which in case I'm actually calling the writers out for this, if you are actually stating, "Oh, let's just drop the belt because we decided to run with no crowds and kept going on with the idea," we don't feel as though he's over enough because there's no crowd there. Regardless of it, there is still an audience who watches it. Now, at this moment in time, the second you do sort of go back and dial back and say, well, we haven't made a star, but we could have made it. You're making a star now. Why put a hold on the brakes right now? I know some people could say, oh, we could make him into an even bigger star. It could possibly make him into a bigger star, but why do it at the cost of the fact of making him into he was just champion just during the time when the fans weren't there and we've lost faith in him, or he's not ready to be champion again. You're quickly switching your minds on such a turn of a dime that it's just unrealistic. Personally, I feel as though Randy Orton winning the championship again, this doesn't elevate. It doesn't elevate me. It massively doesn't. And why are they going to do this? Why? Oh, let's put Drew McIntyre on complete hold to give the belt to Randy Orton, just so we can elevate Randy Orton versus Edge. Really, WWE? I thought you learnt your lesson the first time when you tried to play with nostalgia. The fact that you tried to play with nostalgia with Bill Goldberg. Clearly, you haven't if you are considering this. Personally, if you are going to have Drew lose the championship, as much as a lot of people might not believe it, I'd actually prefer him to lose it to damn well Dolph Ziggler at the horror show than to fricking Randy Orton at SummerSlam. I feel as it just doesn't make sense. You should be making new stars now, WWE. You need to be making new stars, not the same ones coming back and back again. Because answer me this, what is going to stop you from you giving the belt to Randy Orton to turn around and say, well, let's give Edge one more run. He takes the belt off Orton, and where's Drew McIntyre? He is nowhere to be found in the championship run because you've just basically bypassed him. because she's basically just going, let's just ignore this. And there's no way you're going to be letting. There's the other option of, let's give the belt to Owen and let him beat Edge. Which then sort of diminishes Edge's big comeback. Somebody's going to lose if you do that. If you run with that idea, WWE, somebody will lose. It just doesn't work that way. And I feel as though it would be a bit of a letdown if you do that way. Personally, if you want him to drop the title, as much as I hate it, have him lose to Dolph, because then at least then you could say you're trying something different or new, or if you're going to keep the belt on him until SummerSlam, have him lose to somebody who hasn't been massively in the title picture multiple times. Give it to somebody different, somebody who could be next in line. You need to be concentrating on making your future stars now to be not going, let's put one step forward and then 2 steps back, because you're just going to be in a bad position where you've got no new stars no new stars when the current top stars decide to go, I've had enough, let's move on. And what then? You're then rushing to find new stars in such an immediate hurry. You need to be making them now, WWE, now. And that's Rumor Corner out the way. And the last piece I want to talk about, which is to do with the Burning Truth itself. Now, a lot of people are saying, you always keep saying you've got updates and future stuff coming. Yes, yes, I know we've said it a few times, but as I've said before, yes, we have had some interviews done for TBT interviews, and that will be making a return soon. But at the moment in time, we're just currently going through some double checks and speculations due to current events that have been ongoing as such, and we want to make sure that everything is still clear as such and still all speculative. But let me just state this. These interviews aren't all recent. They were done quite early on, before early days of the pandemic. And unfortunately, I know what you're going to be saying. Why haven't you released them soon? But when they do get released, there will be a notification of when they were officially done. So just so you know, it won't be quite mostly new, but it's still an interesting interviews that will be occurring, that did occur, and you'll find interesting. And hopefully we should be having some more interviews done. So hopefully TBT interviews isn't just going to be a quick few interviews and done and moved on. I'm aiming to bring it back so it's got a bit more of a flow and a bit of a regular format from time to time. Could it be weekly? Could it be fortnightly? Could it be monthly? We don't know yet. But as soon as we do, we will let you know. And that is going to be it for this week. Next week is going to be us, hopefully my broadcast partner, John Ball, is back. If not, then that's fine. But next week will most likely be the predictions for WWE The Horror Show at WWE Extreme Rules, and possibly any other topics if we have time or able to fit them in. But for that is going to be it for the news and topics for this week, and there's the little preview for next week. As for what is next right now, we're going to be jumping onto the plugs. So with all that said, please check out the following plug, which is by checking out UKWA, also known as UK Wrestling Alliance. And of course, we also, for any photography needs, highly recommend you check out Tony Knox, Jessica Silver Photography, and Kerry Swift Photography. For all videography needs, we highly recommend you check out BA Productions and SW Video. They are absolutely amazing at what they do, and could end up elevating your productions. And that is not just for the videography, one about the photography, which includes Tony Knox, Jessica Servo Photography, and Kerry Swift as well. We of course also recommend you check out charitable organisations like Changes for Health and Wellbeing, Changes Recovery Radio, Messy for Mind, Donna Louise Hospice Care for Children and Young People, and Cancer Research UK. as the information that they provide on their websites could prove massively useful, and the information that they do provide could end up either helping yourself or someone that you might know. You never know. And of course, we also recommend you check out the lighter side of wrestling by checking out none other than Botchamania, WrestleCrap, and of course OSW Review. And of course, I will be stating, you're welcome, Matthew, you're welcome, R.D. Reynolds, and of course, you're welcome, OSW Review lads. You do amazing work. We of course also recommend you check out fellow broadcasters and podcasters as such by checking out Pull Up Pass Radio Show, hosted by none other than Magic Mark Adams, and also check out his other podcast, which is none other than Don't Say the C Word. And when we say Don't Say the C Word, we don't mean that as a swear word. We mean the fact that they're not talking about the coronavirus or COVID-19, but they always have an interesting topic for each week. And of course, we also recommend you check out We the Independents, and that is with an IE and not a Y, which has got Indian Till Infinity, hosted by none other than Sugar Duncanton, or as most people know him on AEW, Pineapple Pete. And of course, we also recommend you check out Think Wrestling, especially the talking wrestling interviews and everything else involved with Think Wrestling, which is hosted by none other than our fellow colleague Tom Baker, and we're not on about the Doctor Who actor. Amazing guy. And of course, we also recommend you check out Train Pop Culture, which is absolutely interesting, as they have many interesting topics, which I believe is on Anchor, but you can listen to them on Spotify. Another fellow podcast we highly recommend. If you've got some hatred, if you've got some anger in you, please check out Hatred Theory. Highly recommend it. It's a great way, because if you're feeling angry, and want to get something off your chest, or you feel as though, you're about to explode, check out Hatred Theory, because believe me when I say this, yeah, they've got a lot of anger, but they do it in such a comical way that it makes you completely forget your anger, and I highly recommend it. We, of course, also recommend you to check out Kayfabe Music, as the music that they do is absolutely phenomenal. In case you want proof, just check out our theme music for the Burning Truth. They're the ones who did it, and I believe they're actually currently holding a competition for a bespoke track. If you're interested in that, check out their social media, because who knows, you could end up winning it. And of course, we also recommend you check out Turnbuckle TV, which is where you can get up to 30 or 40 plus wrestling companies on there with content. Okay, at the moment, it's currently slowed down due to the current situation, but there is new content always being added on there, be it either new shows or shows that haven't been uploaded yet, or even broadcasts or podcasts on there as well. I highly recommend it. And the best thing about it is, some of it is free, got some free content on there, but a lot of but the 30 to 40 plus companies on there, if you want to get access to them all, it's just $3.99. That is almost essentially £1 a week. That is almost like £1 a week. $3.99 a month. Like I say, £1 a week. That is absolutely amazing price. Highly recommend it. Well, let's just say this. It's that good. I've got UK Way on there. That's how good it is. Well, I know that was a bit of self-bragging there, but it's got many companies on there, and I highly recommend you check it out. And of course, whenever you do sign up to Turnbuckle TV, you could end up helping out any of the local wrestling companies on there that you actually are following and in support of. And of course, we also recommend you check out local wrestling companies, just case an example, follow other wrestling companies like Future Championship Wrestling, United Wrestling, Pro Wrestling for You, Future Shock Wrestling, Academy Pro Wrestling, Falling Star Wrestling, Venom Wrestling Federation, Slam Wrestling, Wolfen Pro Wrestling, and many others. And in case if I have missed any of them off, there is an actual app to check out any of your local wrestling promotions. And you want to know how you check that out? By downloading an app called Babyface Wrestling App, which is absolutely free and has absolutely information always being updated on there, be it the blogs as such. And you can also follow wrestling companies and wrestlers on there. And it is absolutely an absolute gem to do so. And of course, if you want to check out any interesting stuff for the Burning Truth, be it the latest broadcast or episode of The Burning Truth, or as such, you can check out the Burning Truth website, which is I'll repeat it again. That is www.theburningtruthuk.com. I'll repeat it again. www.theburningtruthuk.com. And just to point out, any of the links that are on the links page, please, any external links that are on the website, please understand that we cannot be held responsible for, as we have no control over them, and some of them may be unsuitable for certain audiences. But we cannot be held responsible. In case if you wanted to check out our social media, we of course are on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and you can listen to past episodes of The Burning Truth either on the website, Spreaker, I believe on Apple, I believe on Spotify, Google Podcast. We are on iTunes, of course. I know I might have already said Google Podcast, but we are on Deezer and many other external sources. It's almost like we can almost say, please check out, you can listen to The Burning Truth on all available podcasts, applications and other sources. But let's just say this, we'll just leave it with that. That is going to be a wrap up for this week. And before I end this week's episode, I'm going to be throwing out the mental health message, which is, as we've always stated, it is okay to be not okay. Asking for help isn't a weakness. And of course, by asking for help, you can end up finding out you have much more love and care for you from your fellow colleagues, family, friends, and hell, even a complete stranger could end up helping you from out the blue and catching you off guard, because the world is not all doom and gloom. And of course, we also always recommend you to never compare your behind the scenes to other people's greatest hits. A quote from Tom Campbell from Cultaholic. And of course, the other quote that we've been also pushing out, which is none other than, make yourself a priority once in a while. It's not selfish, it's necessary. And I can also say that is a message that is being massively pushed from ourselves, because it is okay to take time off. You have to. Do not think you're being selfish at all. You're not. Everyone has to have their own self-time. And of course, another message I'm going to be pointing out, be nice to other people. Treat people how you want to be treated, and be nice, because at this moment in time, a lot of people are still probably currently not at the best mental health at the moment. So understand that, just if you haven't got anything nice to say, don't say it at all, and just make sure to look after each other. But until then, I hope you all stay well and stay safe until the next episode. And of course, I always do recommend you all check out your local professional wrestling companies, be it their social media. Give a call to a family friend, a family member, a friend, or someone you haven't spoken to in a while, because you could end up actually helping them out. And until next week, I've been Matt Burns. Thank you very much for listening to The Burning Truth. And this, as I'm going to be hopefully ending the show with, it has been emotional. I'll catch you next week. Until then, it's been emotional. Catch you later.